Are you recording, Joe? Yeah.
Yeah, it's just started. Hang on, just make sure. Yeah. I'm
Excellent.
half asleep at the moment.
Yeah, I know the feeling, mate. It's sleepy weather, isn't it? I think we should be hibernating, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think that's what we're meant to do, quite naturally. Right. Okay. So obviously we've all got together tonight for a particular reason. It's my Christmas video that you guys have so kindly offered to come along and help me out with. And the topic of conversation, obviously knowing me, is paranormal experiences. I'm going to call this video, I think, Christmas Spirits. Yeah. So I'd just like to, obviously, I'm a ghost hunter. I've been doing it for many years. I've got my own stories, but I always like to hear the stories of other people and share them with whoever. And that's hopefully what we're going to do tonight. So do you want me to start with the story, or do you want to start with the story?
Go on, tell us the story. You're the group leader, Dan.
Fair enough. The one that I think I have mentioned it before, and it's the one that's always perplexed me. I've got a fair few of them. Not as many as a lot of these TV programs and these documentary companies got, because I think that most of them are they fabricate it. But I have got probably maybe 4 or 5. But the one that really perplexed me is the one where I went to Lincolnshire. It's probably going back about 3-4 years now. And I did an investigation, and we didn't really get anything at the investigation. It was an old stately home. And we got a full run of it, and we didn't really get anything. The only thing we got really was the odd footstep. But, it was a big old building. It was all made of stone, sound travels. It was empty. So that could have been anything, to be fair. Although that was quite unusual. But coming back that night, I remember I was driving. It was about 3 a.m, 3:30 a.m. And I was driving along, and there was a car in front of me, and I was just going past farm fields. Or actually, I was coming off of a roundabout. The car in front of me was probably about 50 yards in front of me. And as he's come off the roundabout and gone left past this farm field, and I'm behind him, his headlights have caught a girl standing in a field. Wow. Now, she had her back to us. And the weird thing was that it was pouring rain. It was cold, and she was just standing there with her back to us. She had a long coat on. I remember she had this skirt, and she had these like boots, Wellington boots. But the one thing that really struck me strange is you could see the full outline of her. She was like a normal, solid, living person. But you could just see the side of her face, and her hair had just came down and covered that sort of side. But you could still make her out. And she had this carrier bag that I can only describe as, it wasn't like a modern carrier bag. It was like an old, I don't know, like an old co-op type of carrier bag from probably the 60s or 70s. It was that sort of style. And I drove past her, and as I sort of slowed down, looked, and she was just standing there. She wasn't doing anything, wasn't moving, nothing. Now, when you come up, the thing about this place is it was desolate. There was fields all around it, as far as the eye could see, but it was flat. Lincolnshire, very, very flat. And there was no really where for her to go. Absolutely nowhere. No houses for miles, nothing, just the road. And there was only me and this other person on it at the time. So I drove on, and I thought, you know what? I thought to myself, I can't, with the best will in the world, I can't, if it's someone's daughter, I can't, or she's having a breakdown or whatever, I can't leave her out there in the freezing cold and rain and not go back and check on her and see if she's okay or she needed help. But at the same time, there was something in my mind that was saying there's something not quite right with this picture, but I couldn't put my finger on it. So I remember stopping probably 100 yards, 150 yards past her, turning round, coming back, and then pulling up opposite this little track that she was on, and then getting out in the car and looking for her, and she wasn't anywhere to be seen. And I looked down where the ditches were. I looked in, walked up to where she was standing, nowhere to be seen. And I don't know. And I obviously I can't say whether it was whether she was a spirit or not, but I can't rule it out because I can't see what else she could have been. And that perplexed me to the point where I spoke to one of the team members the next day and said, look, I know we had next to nothing, if anything, in the way of evidence or activity at that building, but on the way home, this happened. And she was a seasoned investigator as well. She'd been doing it for sort of 25 years. And she said, it's funny, she said, because she's had it and other investigators have had it where they've got nothing at the venue, but then leaving the venue, they've picked something up on the way back. And I don't know, it was just odd. But it's one of those things that's going to have me scratching my head forever, I think.
I think that is very similar to, that probably leads on to one of our stories, isn't it, Jen, that we had a couple of weeks ago? Exactly the same sort of thing, Dan. I've told you, I think, previously, but we were driving back from Ledbury to Gloucester, pitch black, and I think we were coming up to the M50 bridge, were we, Jen?
Yeah, just before the M50, where coming from Ledbury, just before you come to Red Marley.
Yeah, and it's just a straight bit of road. It's completely dark, and there was no other cars on the road, so I was just driving along, and you could see in front of us on our side of the road, going ahead of us, the back of a bike. So you saw the light bob in from side to side, you could see the wheel, and you could see the back of the guy or girl or whatever. And I wanted to obviously go around them because they were a lot slower. And so I put the main beam on for any other cars coming the other way to see me come in, and put the main beam on to pull out. And as I put the main beam on, completely disappeared.
Really?
I was just about to say, I'm sure just as I was saying that, Jen said I saw it as well.
So that's the thing, though, isn't it? When you've got, if it's just you can scratch your head and think, well, did I see that? I don't know. Maybe I'm tired, what have you. But when then you've got somebody who can verify it.
Yeah,
but
it's not like it's not. Go on.
Well, no, because I was thinking the main beam come on, and I just went, oh, and I sort of did that, and Damon went, did you? And I was like, yeah, I just saw that as well. It was really odd. But what's weird is there's that bad motorway junction there where you go onto the M50. It's a really horrible junction. It's off like off this. It is like it's a B road actually, I think, but it's sort of a real horrible junction. So I thought I was going to look it up and I forgot. We were going to look up see if there'd been an accident there with somebody on a bike because something weird happened.
It's not like it could have been an odd reflection, because from my point of view in the van, all right, I might see an odd reflection, but Jem was in a different position in the van, so she wouldn't see the same reflection as I did, if you know what I mean. So that's sort of
different angles.
Yeah. So like yours, Dan. That was a weird one, and we're still scratching our heads now. Like,
it's really odd, isn't it? Because I was like the one that I saw. It was unless she died in the rain, I don't know, but she was out in the rain, and she was obviously absorbing the rain, which makes me wonder. Because obviously, like the one that you saw, was that a place memory? Had somebody been killed there previously on a push bike, and
I reckon that.
Replaying over and over and over again, or is it, was it intelligent, or you don't know, do you? But I know what you mean.
And the backlight wasn't really bright or anything. It was you could see it was a light, but it wasn't overly bright. So, and you could just see it bobbing side to side, and like you would if you're cycling, So that's two very similar stories there, Dan.
Yeah, and
that was only 2 weeks ago.
Over the centuries, must have had so many fatalities on roads.
Yeah,
that they're going to be one of the prime places, I guess, for picking up on spirit activity. But it's odd. It's odd. What about you, Joe? You had anything? Sorry, mate. Sorry.
Never anything on the roads like what you had, but here, even now, I'm sat at my desk and there's the doorway there through to the bathroom, and it's like someone's there. Like there is something in here. But what I wanted to speak about was something different. It was when my grandmother was really ill and was told that she's gonna die. She's only got a day left. Basically, we've got to go see her in hospital. So we all prepared ourselves for that goodbye trip. We get there, and I did not recognise her. She was that ill. Then she kept saying about she had this dream last night. That well, first of all, it started off that at night there was these green lights appear in the hospital, and all these people having parties that she ain't seen in years, and they're saying, "No, you're not invited." Then she'd wake up and she'd put it down to the drugs she was on, and then another time she said she had this weird dream that she's walking through this valley with all these clouds, beautiful flowers, and then someone at the end said no, go back. So she's had that, and then we've gone back to the hospital the second day, and she's upset in her chair. She had to have someone feed her, but she sat up in her chair, and then within a few days after that, she looked like her old self again. But obviously there was no hope because her organs were failing that. But she went home. She wanted to pass away at home, and I was working at the day, and at that time on a building site, and it was one of those days that she used to love, like a beautiful summer's day, she'd say. But it wasn't summer; it was late autumn. And just this thing in my mind, I just thought something's happened, and then I kind of faintly heard her voice say, "You're all good children, and I love you all." And this is when I had to go to the bathroom just to get myself together, and then I heard her voice say, "You're all good children, I love you all." I've come back and I've seen my dad on the phone because I was working with my dad, and he come off the phone and he just said, she's gone. So we left work, went home, and then what my mum said backed up everything that she said about the tunnel and the afterlife. My granddad passed away when I was a kid, when I was a baby, and just before my nan died, one of her eyes opened up, and she looked across the whole room at everyone. I weren't there, obviously, but everyone that was in the room, and then she smiled, shut her eyes, she opened it again and said, "John, is that you?" And that's my granddad. "Oh, John." And then she faded away, the light flickered, and that was it. So and there's been other things. There's been like feathers appear a few days later. There was, I'm at the kitchen making a cup of tea for my mum and that, and there's a feather on the kitchen worktop. Windows wasn't open or anything, just this feather. So that makes me believe that that confirmed to me that there is somewhere after this. Because there's other things that she mentioned when she wasn't when she's in the hospital. So yeah. So yeah, that's the story. One of them anyway. There's loads.
See, but I've got a similar one to that with my dad. When my dad was in hospital, he's going back many years now, and he was in hospital. He was in the intensive care ward, and they didn't give him. They said, "Look, you've got to come and say your goodbyes and what have you." But I remember myself and my brother were in the ward with him, or in the room with him, because he was in the side room, and he was talking and he was pointing at people over in the corner behind us, and we were looking, couldn't see anything clearly, and he was saying that his mother was there and what have you, and yeah, so it's very similar to what your nan had, you know. And I remember speaking. I did some work years ago for a heart surgeon, and I remember speaking to him, and he got fascinated with it, like sort of near-death experiences, to the point where he basically he still stayed a surgeon, but he became a lay preacher as well, because he was telling me that, and I was explaining to him what my dad had said and what have you, and he explained to me that he'd done literally, well, he'd done lots and lots of surgeries where people had passed away and come back on the same table, and also he travelled around the world talking about near-death experiences, and he's met hundreds and hundreds of people from different cultures, different religions, but these experiences that they all had emulated each other's. And he said, he was completely sold on it. He said, he said, that's what your dad saw. He said was absolutely real. He said, and I don't think it's drugs. I don't think it's hallucination. He said, I think it's a genuine meeting of spirits. And that was interesting. You hear quite a few of those in hospitals, don't you?
Yeah.
Those type of things. And
saying that they have a party every night and all that sort of thing. But
I got one with my granddad. It's not like that, but my granddad died at French Hospital. Is it French, Jen? It was, wasn't it? Yeah, it was French, eh?
Yeah.
And we were all sat round his bed as he was dying, and he died, and sort of, we all came away, and as we walked out, actually, just after he died, we walked down the big corridor there, and out through the doors at the other end, there's like a little roundabout where taxis come and drop people off.
Yeah.
And there was a taxi there. On the side of it was, what was it called, Jen?
Canard Computing.
That's it, Canard
Really?
Computer. And my name is really, you don't see my name hardly anywhere.
No.
For it to be out beside the hospital just after he died on the side of a taxi. But anyway, that isn't the weird thing. The weird thing is, like, years later, we were talking about when my granddad died, and I said, "Oh, my when he died, it was a bit, it wasn't really nice, was it? Because his breathing was terrible. His he was like really struggling, and his back was coming off the bed, and where he was struggling to breathe. And because I was saying, it's amazing what the body does to try and survive."
Yeah.
And Jen and my dad, who were also there, said, "What are you talking about?"
We didn't see it.
Granddad, when he died, they said he just laid there and died peacefully. But I saw him when he was dying. He was like really struggling for breath, and I saw his back come up off the bed where he was struggling so much. And I'm just wondering now because I said, "No, you must be remembering it wrong." And they said, no. And of course, Dad and Jen backed each other up because they were both there as well. And they didn't see what I saw, but I saw that, and that's the image I got in my mind. I got no other image in my mind, and I'm just wondering if I was seeing his spirit leaving his body or something.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know, but I mean, to me,
Well,
it was just
you
solid
came
granddad.
you came in at the last sort of few seconds, didn't you? Because you and your dad had gone off to the cafe, and I was sat there, and he had started to sort of like go. But it was all sort of peaceful. Then you came in, so and then it was like you and your dad saying goodbye to him, wasn't it?
Yeah.
But as far as what I saw, he was just led there.
And it's the same with Dad as well. Dad said he was peaceful, but to me, in my eyes, he was struggling to breathe, and then it just relaxed, and that was it. So I don't know what that was all about. And also the room was really heavy. The atmosphere was like charged and really heavy. As soon as he died, it was like calm. It was
Really?
peaceful and calm. Yeah, weird. And it was with Grandad particularly. I mean, I've seen quite a few people die, but with Grandad particularly, that was the most charged atmosphere. And it's just like thick. It was like treacle, the atmosphere in there. And then as soon as he died, it was just calm and peaceful. Yeah. So so it's a bit of a different story to yours and Joe's, but still weird. I still don't understand that myself.
Seems like
my memory is him struggling right until the end.
Seems like he was on the same sort of energy level as what he was experiencing, sort of thing, like.
Yeah.
And that's it, isn't it?
I was going to say, I think now that maybe I must have been watching his spirit trying to leave the body. Like you see in the films where the spirit's sort of trying to come out.
Yeah.
I just got a feeling I must have been seeing that.
But that's it, though, isn't it? It's all energy. Everything's energy, isn't it? Everything is an energy. Emotions, everything that we perceive to be physical is just an energy. It manifests itself in as we see it, and so I can't understand why people have such a hard time or understanding the concept, or even giving a little bit of credence or credit to the concept of spirits. I've had arguments with people before, even scientists, and they've said, well, you argue the toss with them that everything's an energy, and they'll go along with it and agree with you, and da-da-da-da-da. And then when it comes to the point of the spirit, they draw the line. Well, no, it doesn't. And you think, well, hang on, it's an energy, isn't it? It's all an energy. Even, in particular, science has said that energy doesn't dissipate; it just moves on. Yeah. You can't destroy it; it just moves on. And if you look at someone's personality and their blueprint as their energy, then where does it go? It's Albert Einstein, wasn't it? That's right. Albert Einstein said that about the energy can't be destroyed; it just moves on. But yeah, it's odd. What about you, Jim? What about experiences that you've had?
Oh, quite a few.
Have you? Go on, get
Quite a
out.
few.
Listen.
Well, I just remembering because I'm sat in our sort of spare room, which is where we've always sort of usually had a computer set up. But years and years ago, Damon was at work, and I was sat doing something on the computer, and I heard this noise, and I thought it was our dog kicking around the bed in our bedroom, which is opposite this room. So I just sort of like wheeled the chair and said, "What you doing?" And our duvet was off the bed in the air, going round
Wow.
off the bed, and then it just
Poltergeist.
dropped. It just dropped onto the bed, and I was just like, "Oh my god!" So I rang David and said, "This is what's happened." And him and his work colleagues were laughing at me because they obviously thought I'd imagined it. But it was like the dog was digging the beds. That was a noise I could hear. So I just put my head around to tell him to stop it, and it wasn't. The duvet was just going in the air
Just going up in the air and spinning.
and then
Did
just
you say the
dropped.
drawers as well, Jen?
No. The other thing was your nan, well, Gwen, she had one of these musical. It's like a musical lady that you would wind up and it'd spin
Oh,
around and say play Edelweiss or something. Oh God, it's getting frosty in here. Look at that. and yeah, it would play Edelweiss and it would turn around. Well, we didn't wind it up or do anything. And I used to think this doll just looked a bit weird. So I used to face her out the window. So she was sat on the windowsill looking out the window. Every time I went in the bedroom, she's facing inwards. And I would go up there and I'd turn around and she'd be facing it. Wake up in the morning, she's facing inwards.
Inwards again.
And this one day, because I kept turning her back, and then one day she just fell on the floor and smashed. And I thought, well, I don't care, because it was a bit of an eerie doll anyway.
Do you know where it come from at all?
It was Damon's nan's, wasn't it? Well, Gwen's.
Oh, it was your nan. Oh, right. Oh, I see.
Well, like
Yeah,
his
it's
step
amazing.
nan, yeah. But she
That's
was
the
still
thing.
alive.
She was.
She was.
She was, yeah.
Yeah.
But she was alive, obviously, when you had the doll.
She was alive, but she had really bad. Oh, was that when she had the dementia?
Yeah.
Yeah, she had really
Because
bad
I've only
dementia.
ever known her with dementia.
Yeah, she didn't
No,
know
that's
anybody.
interesting.
was that something that was handed down to her and then given to you, or
It
something
was.
like
It was
that?
basically we helped clear the flat out and nobody wanted it, so it ended up with us. So,
That could have had some history with somebody else further along your family
Could
line,
have done.
or
Yeah,
even a
could have
different
done.
family.
Yeah.
But they do say that they do say
Go on,
some negative energies can attach themselves to like dolls or symbolic type things like that. That's what I've heard anyway. But,
Yeah. Did you feel it was negative, Jen? I didn't think it was
Well,
negative.
No,
as
no,
such, was it?
not negative.
positive and negative, really.
It just, I don't know. It just looked, and that's why I would just face it to the window, and I just thought, well, it's just looking out the window. But it was the same. That was in there when this thing happened with the duvet.
It's weird because I've heard a lot of sort of mediums and spiritualists over the years talking about people that when they're at a certain point in dementia, they've got one foot in this world and one foot in the next.
Mm.
So they've said to somebody, is this person passed over? And they go, no, she's still alive. And then eventually it comes out that person's in hospital being treated for severe dementia.
And she did.
That's what picked up.
She had a very. I mean, when I first met her, she was just starting it, and she knew she was sort of asking the questions over and over. But then she went to quite bad, like a Lewy body dementia. So
she used to be quite violent with my granddad, didn't she? Which is why they had to move her to the care home. She was hitting him a lot and things.
Yeah, I mean, it's frustration, I suppose, and maybe that energy manifests itself in the doll. You don't know, do you? Who knows?
But we don't know. What? I think we knew after it smashed that she was still alive, didn't we? I can't remember now, because she was sort of like a step family. She'd gone to a home. There wasn't any sort of connection to. We didn't really hear whether she died or whatever. I don't know. But
Yeah, because my granddad got ill. He eventually went into a care home. Yeah, it was her own sort of sons and things that were sort of dealing with her, and we didn't really get to see, because there wasn't really any point going in because she didn't know us.
No.
So
No.
you know, and that was down in Bristol.
And that's the thing, whereas Joe says, you know, energies can attach themselves to anything. I mean, I've seen the weirdest things that have been allegedly and supposedly possessed.
You've got a doll, haven't you, Dan?
Yeah. Yeah, I got about 3 or 4 things. I used to have quite a lot more. I had a set of rosary beads that were.
I got a doll.
You got a doll as well, haven't you?
I've got one as well over there.
Creepier than anything I've ever experienced. That is. Yeah, I used to have like a set of rosary beads with a cross that a guy had found in a church, and they must have fell behind wherever. But he'd had them. He'd passed. Well, actually, the guy I got them off of was a demonologist, and he used to collect items that were possessed. And he had this rosary bead that was found in this church, and it was. I think the rosary beads were said to be 400 years old. But when this guy had been given these rosary beads, he had all sorts of rubbish happening in his house and stuff. And so he gave them to the guy I knew, the demonologist, who then said, "Do you want them?" And I went, "Yeah, why not have them?" Yeah. And nothing happened with them, to be fair. Nothing happened with them. But yeah, it's just, I don't know. There's lots of stories I've heard of possessed items because people invest some of their energy into the items that they use continually or something they particularly like.
This is where mediums use like jewelry and things to
read
the energy.
Yeah,
I had a cursed item once. It was a film prop. Wasn't a Ouija board. It was a Jalala. I can't pronounce it properly. Jalalakang board, which is more of an ancient version from Indonesia of the board. And since that came into my life, everything just went downhill. Not just like haunting, not just hauntings, but just bad luck and things always falling apart. Try and get rid of it, it always ends coming back. One of my friends, he done a lot of like ghost hunting stuff as well. He lives down the road, but he took it for a while. I did warn him about it, and then things started going wrong for him, so he sent it back to me. I was really bad though. I put it in my mum's when they lived just over the road in the cupboard. As soon as it was in there, they had like this air fresh, you know, those air freshener things that you put on a shelf or something. They had this sort of just above the front door, and that air freshener launched itself up to the other end of the hallway. And it's a really long hallway. So I thought, right, I better get rid of that board. I chucked it in the river. Oh, it made such a bang. Worst thing is, there's a police van coming across. They probably think I'm chucking a weapon or something.
Fish it out and give it back, yeah.
Yeah, but since having that board, I've got hard drives somewhere here full of footage, and that is the most terrifying thing I've ever seen. Me and my mate was here. 2 grown men and a dog have run out of my flat. Luckily, I left the camera running. It was about 30 minutes before I wandered back in, quickly rushed around, packing a few things, and I went and stayed at my mum's for a couple of weeks. But I've gone back looking at the footage, right? And obviously, it should have been, you hear us leave, because what happened was we was filming something like a film project thing, but we kind of abandoned it because I had this little, what do you call it, CCTV camera, which I put sort of in the corner of the room over there. So it got the whole room, and we could see it on my big TV. I had a different TV, big TV, so you could see the footage on there. And I had another camera filming the TV and us, if that makes sense. And we could see on the TV all these orbs appearing from the doorway there. We lost count at 20. There was still more coming in. It was like a scene from Poltergeist. And I thought, well, nothing bad's happening. It can't be bad because Rocco, my dog's fine. Anyway, it was like we're seeing fire. You know, when you see a firework, oh, look at that. You get really excited. We're asking it questions. Then we said, are you a spirit, ghost, or demon? When we said that demonic word, the screen just went. I said, can you please confirm spirit, ghost, or demon? And then the screen went again on demon. Asked who it's here for, and it's for my mate. Sorry, Rocco's going a bit mad. Anyway, things died down. We was filming for about a week every night. Things died down one night, and I said, look, not getting much activity. Like, let's go back and do what we was doing for this script that I'd written. Just moving some things around, and this is the first time I actually saw these orbs with my own eyes. They're swirling around me. You caught it up on camera, and then that's the only time Rocco went crazy. He started barking. He came up, yanking my sleeve like that. And I just looked at my mate. I said, "We got to get out of it." I just had a panic. We rushed out. Like I said, 20 or 30 minutes later, come back, packed everything away. I took my camera, and a couple of weeks later, I'm looking through that footage, and obviously you see us leave and hear us leave, and the camera's still filming. But the worst thing is I switched the bloody light on and didn't turn it off, so I'm sure we'd have got something. But every so often, I put it into Vegas for editing, and you see the audio is just completely blank, apart from every now and then a notch. Blank notch. So I've gone in the notch, and it's bang, quiet, bang, quiet, and it goes on for quite a while. And every now and then, if you listen really faint, you can hear like a growling sound and strange noise. Anyway, I'm trying to think, what is this banging sound? What is this banging sound? I'm banging walls, I'm hammering the floor, I'm trying everything, slamming cupboards. Then I realised I don't think I've got it anymore. I had this big metal case that I kept a camera in. Don't ask me why I kept it in the bathroom, the toilet, but I did. And I kept this Jalalakan board inside that. And I was in the bathroom, and I just looked at the box and thought, hang on a minute. I lifted it up, slammed it down, and that's what the noise was. That was the noise. It was lifting up and slamming down. And I've had growls. I've had a female voice. I've had a growling, then a female voice saying, "Who's there? I'm scared." And then this really horrible growling. But if someone that's not in tune with all this stuff just plays it back, they're not going to hear nothing. You've really got to get in there and pitch the levels right up to hear it. And I picked something peeking its head round the door and all sorts of stuff. There's been a lot of stuff. But I know this thing wasn't a good entity, and I know it was attached to that board, so it got rid of, and everything's calmed down. But I went out and bought sage to cleanse this place, and I had a little flip minnow camera I was filming with, and there's only a little bit of sage, and it's right up to my face nearly. Anyway, I've cleansed this place, and the camera's just disappeared, completely disappeared. Didn't find it till a year later, and it was behind my fridge. Yet I had that fridge out. It's been moved. Play it all back. Every bit of footage that I had filmed is fine, apart from that sage burn. So
yeah, it's odd. It's odd. So you were trying to smudge the house of negative energy.
Yeah, because I knew it was I knew it was negative, and there's just loads of bad things going on as well. And then I just got rid of the board, and I thought, that's it, no more.
Have you had many EVPs in that property?
There's loads. I've got. You're right, Joe. I've got this old woman whistling and singing, because there was an old woman that died in here, but I think there was more than one in here. I've picked up this orb, you zoom in, and it's like a face with a horn and a broken horn. So it's got one horn here and a broken horn. That's what it looks like. But yeah, loads of EVPs. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, let's film something, let's get something, but then I kind of panic and think, nah, it's that thing, that evil thing again. I can't do it. Rocco, no, sorry.
Yeah, I did a farmhouse a few years. I did it a couple of times actually with my friend Dawn, and I went into, there was two farmhouses. It was one farmhouse, but it was broken into two. Sort of, one was the farmer's cottage and one was sort of for work or labourers. But initially, I mean, this farm was about 500 years old in Derbyshire, right out in the middle of nowhere, right in the middle of the sticks, absolutely out in the middle of nowhere. And we went there, and I remember coming out, and it wasn't an EVP, it was actually disembodied voice. And one of the mediums that was outside, she said to me, "Oh, Dan," she went, "have you heard the lady singing?" I didn't know what she was on about. I went, "What? The lady she had singing?" I said, no. And then another woman, a little bit later said, "Dan, have you heard the woman singing?" And I went, "No." She went, "Yeah, she's singing a lullaby." And by this point, I'm thinking, well, I've heard nothing. There's obviously something not right with them two. They're hearing things now. But then went into the first farmhouse with another friend of mine, and we were talking, and she went, Dan, have you heard the woman singing? And I thought, oh, for God's sake. And I said, no. And as I went and said, no, I actually went, shh. And you could hear this woman singing from the next cottage. So we quickly ran outside, and you could hear her, and she was like, it's like a lullaby. So I ran into the second cottage, ran upstairs, and as I got to just the top of the stairs, it stopped, absolutely stopped. Probably a minute or so later, there was a couple of people up behind me then, and we were asking questions. You could hear giggling coming from different rooms. As we moved around, we couldn't pinpoint. So she was obviously, I don't think it's anything negative. I just think she was just playful, really. But another time I did an investigation downstairs, and I used a voice recorder. Was it the Zoom voice recorder, isn't it?
H2N.
Yeah. That's it, yeah. And there was me and Dawn in this room, and nobody else was around. The others had gone walking down the field to what was a castle, remnants of a castle. And so me and Dawn said, no, we'll stay here and we'll do, because we've had good results in this house before. It's the house where the woman was singing. And I had the voice recorder running, and I asked a question, and then Dawn said something, and I answered Dawn, and then you can hear me on the voice recorder say, oh, I'm sorry, Spirit. I'll finish my question now. I'm sorry if that was a bit rude of me. I should have just carried on. And then you can hear, that's all right, dear. It's a woman's voice that says, that's all right, dear. And then you also got from there a scream, which Dawn didn't hear. And I heard it audibly. And I said to Dawn, bloody hell, did you just hear that scream? She went, where was it? Well, it's next to me. She went, no, I didn't hear anything. Then when you played it back, you could hear the woman scream. So, yeah, there was just things like that. It was just odd. But, I mean, people say to me, what do you think they are? And I said, well, I can't tell you what a spirit or a ghost is because I don't know. I don't know. You know, people obviously have got their own ideas and feelings as to what they are. It could be one thing. It could be many things, you know. It could be a compilation of things. I don't know. But it's interesting just to pick up other people's stories and sort of collect
when it's interactive like that, when you say, I'm sorry, and she says, it's okay, dear, then that's not just a memory playing back, is it?
No, that's an intelligent haunting.
Yeah.
That's not so much a ghost, which is ghost is really a memory. That's a spirit. So that's something that's interacting with you on an intelligent level. But
yeah, it's like the cyclist we saw. I think that might be a memory type thing rather than
but it'd be interesting to chase that up, wouldn't it, and find out.
Yeah.
If somebody killed, well, I'm sure there probably was. Probably plenty of people killed on those roads. You know, but it'd be interesting to try and pinpoint who it was, and even get the. Can you remember the date
that we went?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You know when we met up at the field on the Saturday?
Yeah.
And
it was that evening.
It was that evening.
Was it that evening?
Yeah.
So hopefully you might be able to go through some microfiche at a library or something if you can get in there and find out if there's anything on that relating to that road.
Or just go on Google.
Or just go on Google, yeah.
Microfiche? Microfiche?
I know, I'm so old. They don't even use them anymore, do they? I don't think they use them anymore, do they?
No, I don't think so. Well, no, they do. They do in old people's places.
They do, and old films.
Yeah. No, they still use them in the archive places because that's the only place it is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you go to like we got Gloucestershire Archives, if you can look on a microfiche there for stuff like that. But it depends how far back it is.
Yeah.
If it's like before the 70s, then yeah, it'd probably be on that. But
yeah.
Yeah, but anything
after that be on the internet now, I would guess, wouldn't it? I suppose. But yeah. So what other ones have you had, Jen? What other ones have you had that?
Well, the one Damon told me to come and speak about was Hartbury Church. But there is a sort of lead up to this because we were like a group of friends. I just learned to drive, so I was 17. And we used to go around every evening. I'd finish work and we just sort of like hang about, and there was a group of us. Anyway, my one friend, she in her lounge, she had like this lounge, and she had this old piano, and above this piano is a photograph of like an Edwardian type lady. I don't think she was Victorian. I think she's Edwardian, and I just said, God, the face on her, it was just above the thing. And I go on the piano, I could only ever play chopsticks. And I sort of play chopsticks. And I said, God, why have you got, who is it? And I think it was like a great aunt or something or other. And anyway, my friend said, oh, there's something evil about that picture. And I said, what? And she turned it upside down. And when you turned it upside down, the eyes just sort of, it was like they penetrated you. It was just, there was just something about the eyes in this thing. And I thought, oh God. And I said, I wouldn't want that in my house, And then going on, later, a few months later or whatever, we'd gone over to visit her nan, who lives in Hartbury. And whilst we were there, whether I'd gone upstairs to use a loo or something, anyway, I got to this point on the stairs and I just stopped and I just felt, I just didn't feel right, It wasn't like I wouldn't say really cold, but something wasn't right. And I sort of turned and looked down, and her nan was stood at the bottom of the stairs. She said, "You can feel it, can't you?" And I said, "What?" She goes, "I know you can feel it. I can tell by your eyes." And I said, "Oh." Anyway, it turns out that this woman, whether she died on the stairs or hung herself on the stairs, I don't know, but it was that woman in the picture on these stairs. So anyway, I was sort of talking to my friend, and then like all the lads, because there was like a load of boys, and there was probably about 4 girls, and we all used to just drive out in our cars. Anyway, this one day we said, look, why don't we try and find which grave? We knew she was buried in Hartbury in this church. Why don't we try and find the grave of this person? So we went, and it was sort of like dusk sort of time. So you could see the gravestones, but it wasn't light. And we were just sort of like wandering around, and then we found which one it was. And I suppose there must have been about 10 of us, probably in 3 different cars, I think it was. And I just said, oh, look, I was just staring at it. And I said, is that a headstone changed shape? Because it was sort of like an arch type thing, but it was quite a tall arch. And I can't remember the woman's name now, but I was just staring at it. And I said, is that changed shape? And he said, what? And I said, everyone was just staring at it. And then suddenly it was like a caped person rose from the gravestone. The sort of like gravestone sort of like just expanded to like a person with a big cape on and started moving towards us. And literally we ran like how jumped over the wall. We all jumped in our cars and just drove. But every single one of us saw it. Every single one of us. And I told Damon the story because I think I'd driven over there, hadn't I, with you and your cousin when we sort of first met, showed them where it was. And I don't think they believed me, because I said, oh, that's the gravestone. And I think I pointed out which one it was and said, this is what happened and everything. And they're like, yeah, whatever. But then when we sort of met up, because I sort of like lost contact with these friends and everything, but then we met up with them at one point. I think we bought a car off them, didn't we? And I said, oh, tell Damon.
Eve.
Yeah, I said, oh, tell Damon about Hartbury Church. So it wasn't like I was putting anything into their thing. I said, just tell the story without me saying anything. And they told it word for word, exactly the same.
Same story.
Yeah. And it was this woman's grave. So
that's the thing, isn't it? When you've got other people verifying what you've seen, then you have to take it seriously then.
Yeah.
To look deeper and further into it. So I wonder if she wasn't a particularly nice woman then.
I don't know, but since that happened, because her nan sort of said to me, she said, you've got the ability to see these things or know these things or feel these things or whatever. And I just thought,
Well, I don't want to.
yeah. That's one good thing I didn't want to do. but I can do that though. And so, like sometimes I can walk into a place or you meet a person and you meet that person, there's something just really,
yeah.
And you just think there's something really evil about that person or this place or like, even buying something, not wanting to get something because it's bad.
Yeah, it's intuitive, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's
So yeah, that was my Hartbury Church story.
a good story.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and
Good.
Hartbury's not that far from where we were with that bloke on the bike.
Oh, really?
It's a few villages along, but I think that whole that whole area. But I can go in other churchyards and I feel nothing at all. They're
Yeah.
all just. But there was just. But it was that connection with the photo, the stairs, and then we sort of like, well, let's just go and find where this grave is, because obviously for some reason I'm drawn to this.
Yeah.
I don't think it's just you either, is it, Jen?
Hmm?
I don't think it's just you either, is it? Because your nan and granddad had an experience as well, didn't they?
My nanny. Oh my my nan and granddad. They when my granddad, I don't know, because he died quite young. He died when he was 58. But when they were sort of probably in late 40s, they moved to this area of Gloucester called Hucklecote. They used to live in Tuffley. They loved it in Tuffley, but then they moved to this slightly bigger bungalow in Hucklecote. And as soon as they moved in, they didn't feel right. They felt like it was oppressive, and they were like, they used to get on brilliantly, but they would argue and it just wasn't right. My granddad's health started to deteriorate, and my nan used to say that it's this house. She said, I'm sure it's this house. So my granddad's brother was a bit of a historian and everything. So he sort of like looked up into it, and it turned out that the couple that used to live in the bungalow, the bloke went mad and he ended up in the local mental hospital. And so my nan said, I really don't like this house. I think it's the house. And of course, my uncle was saying, oh, it's not, it's not the house. And I think one day they were there, and whether they'd had a couple of drinks or something, my nan never drank, but my uncle probably did, and my granddad maybe. And so my Uncle George just said, oh, it's not the house. So he goes, right, and he just stood bolt upright, held his glass up, and he says, here's to you, come on then, or something, in sort of like goading, whatever it was. Suddenly this crack just appeared down the wall, and there was like a flash of light. The dog, they had this Jack Russell, just shot into the corner and started peeing itself. And they basically all went out the house, and they came to our house with my mum and dad. They just turned up, and I remember them turning up late one night, and they stayed over in the house. And they did go back and sold it. But my Uncle George then did some looking into it again, and it turns out that Hucklecote is because it's just off of Gleven Way, no, Ermine Street, like a Roman, and it's apparently a Roman burial ground.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And as soon as they moved away from that house, everything was fine again. But apart from my granddad's health, it carried on deteriorating. But my nan always said that it was that house that did it. But,
yeah, I couldn't believe that.
But the actual where the houses are built, I mean, it's a big, massive housing estate. It's all different, roads off it. But it is it's just off of Ermine Way, so it's the Roman.
It's a Roman road, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I can believe that. I've said, like you said, you were saying earlier. It's like, I mean, I would never say that I was particularly. Well, I'm clueless when it comes to picking up on spirits and what have you. I just can't do it. I'm not that way inclined. I haven't got those abilities. But I think from years of going into properties that are reputedly haunted, some aren't haunted. Some of them you go in and you think, yeah, I'm not liking this, and you feel almost smothered in there, and it's thick, and it's like walking through treacle, and you feel like this is not, there's something dark about this property.
Yeah, I mean, I always remember this old lady that lived next door, and she was lovely, but she would never come round to the house.
Oh, what your Uncle Lance?
No, it was my nan and granddad's house.
Sorry, your nan and granddad, yeah.
Yeah, she lived next door, but she would never go into the house. She said there's something bad about that house.
And did she know the fella who lived there before? Or?
Yeah, she knew the people that were there before. And after, I remember going up there when I started to learn to drive and just thought, I'll go and have a look round. And it was empty for ages. So I think something about that place. But the woman who lived there before my nan and granddad said that it drove her husband mad.
Oh, really?
To the fact that he ended up in a mental hospital.
See, that's the thing, isn't it? You can move into the newest of buildings, but you don't know what's been there prior to that, and you don't know what the land's got on it. You know?
I think I don't know if they were the first people to live in there. Maybe no, because it is older, so it's probably like a 40s house, and they moved in would have been the 70s. So
yeah, so it's fairly new when they moved in, then I guess really, isn't it? It's sort of 30 years old. It's nothing, is it, for a property really? But
yeah, it was. I mean, they they were really. It wasn't, it was something bad about the house. And then actually started my nan going to like spiritualist churches and things after that. So yeah,
it's intuitive, isn't it? You know when something's not quite right, and it's like a friend of mine. He bought a house in Essex, and it was an old house, and it was right smack bang in one of the villages where Matthew Hopkins, the Witchfinder General, used to ply his evil trade. And when he said one day he was clearing out the chimneys, and he pulled 2 witch sticks out the chimneys that have been there for hundreds of years. But he had nothing but activity in the house. He had stuff going missing, then it was being returned, and then it was this, and then it was that. And we did 3 or 4 investigations here, and I don't think there was anything bad about the house. And the village was very pretty, but yeah, you don't know what's gone on there. You just don't know, but it was he was doing his head in a bit, because he kept questioning his reality, because stuff was being moved, and it was being, like, for one example, he came downstairs because there was this tiny little cottage, and he came downstairs to use the facilities, went into the toilet, came back out, and when he's come back out of the toilet, the bottles that were in the bathroom, like the shampoo and all of that, which was in there when he went in there, and he'd come down these stairs, when he came back out, they were all lined up on the steps in the early hours of the morning. And that. But he stayed there. He sort of put up with it, and I think he kind of pushed him a bit towards drink, really. But he's moved since, and he seems okay now. He seems good now, thank God. So, but you don't know. You don't really know. I mean, there's more goes on in this world than we can give it credit for, I think.
I think it depends on what, obviously Roman times and whatever, that is obviously really manifested in that obviously particular property, because there's so many other properties around it that didn't obviously have problems. But it's like when things have happened here, it's not a bad feeling, anything, like it's a bit of a funny feeling really, because you think, and like things go missing as well, but that it's not it's not a bad feeling.
No,
but it's so I think you get, whether you get spirits that are just messing and playing with you and just to get you to think about them possibly, and then you get other ones that are really dark and whatever, but then like where we live in Gloucester, you've got Cromwell Street, where obviously very dark crimes happened, and the house was pulled down. Well, you can go and walk past there and you feel nothing at all. It's, but you don't know, maybe in a couple of 100 years that may surface into something. I just wonder whether they don't want people to think, oh well, they know what happened there, so that's what's happening, so they wait until everyone's forgotten about it, and it's real history, and then things start happening, and then people start to look back at it and say, oh well, that's what happened there, because Cromwell Street is a little walkway now, where the house was. So and maybe in a few 100 years time, something will happen there that's weird and they'll
Yeah.
then look it up. You know.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's you know, I mean, I've done investigations on properties where families have gone in there for years, nothing happens. One family goes in there, stuff happens. Then families move in and nothing's happened. Then the family that we go and help out, there's stuff happening. And I sometimes wonder, is the individual sometimes the catalyst? Does it remain dormant, but one particular person goes in there like a key?
I think that's
and
what
unlocks it.
That's
you
what's
know.
happened with me. I think something's been with me for quite a while. I remember as a baby, my mum. It's crazy how I can remember something at such a young age. But I'd get put in my cot. Why do I remember that? I used to have this little, like a squeaky toy of the sun, and I used to have that put in there, and I'd fall asleep. And my mum, but that toy would squeak. I remember that squeaking, and if I'm playing, I knew that there was someone there, but they weren't there, kind of thing. And I believe that was my granddad. But we moved out of that flat into a house. My mum and dad bought a house, Valence Avenue, and that house, I had so much weird stuff go on in there, and I believe that was an entity that followed me on to the next house. I'd go to bed, and I'd see like this outline of a figure just walk in. My sister had like this little treehouse toy that would shake a little bit, and then my bed would start shaking, and it's like my mattress is being pushed up and down and stuff. But I didn't say nothing in case like my parents thought I was mad or whatever. And then we had like an archway through the door, and you could see the top of the stairs. And you'd sit down in the armchair, and you'd be like that, looking up, because you think there's someone there watching you, but it weren't. And then one night I was in bed, and my mum and my older brother was talking, and they said, "Do you always feel like there's someone watching you at the top of them stairs?" And my mum said, "Yeah." And you get this funny smell of toast, but it weren't toast at odd times. And I remember one Christmas, my mum and dad got me this, you know, those old-fashioned school desks. It was one of them, all painted out white. And
With a lid.
Lid. We all got one. My brother and sister got one that was had the lid. We had our names on and that, and all the lids were up, and there was a little note from Santa inside. But that night there was this horrible burning. It's like a burning rubber smell, and it was Christmas night, like Christmas Eve, early hours Christmas Day. Really horrible burning rubber smell, and I could sense someone at the top of the stairs looking in my bedroom at me. But I didn't say nothing. I just left it, and then all of a sudden, bang! And then I just left it. To be honest, I got so scared I actually wet myself. Next morning, go down. My brother and sister's lids are up on their desk, but mine's down. And my mum and dad broke up and got divorced. That was a bad thing. I would hear some man shout out, "Joe! Joe!" It was a terrifying house. And my mum had a medium come round. She said, "Your son is aware of something in this house. Don't worry, it's not going to cause no harm." But since she came in, it got worse, a lot worse. And I think she was part of it. And then when we moved out of that house, because obviously my parents got divorced, they had to go their separate ways. I moved in with my mum in this other house, and that house just had that horrible energy, and she had that same medium go round, and then all that horrible bad stuff started happening again. And I was the one picking up on it. Just horrible.
Yeah.
And sometimes I had dreams of who that spirit was, and I kind of had a bit of a battle with him and threw him out the window. And he said he's going to come back. He will come back. That's what he said. But since that happened, it eased up. It stopped. So.
Has he gone completely now, Joe, or is he still?
It's gone completely, but he probably will come back. I don't know, but because I'm older, a bit wiser, I'll just ignore it if I can.
Yeah.
What's in here now is completely separate to that. It was a horrible entity. I don't know if it was a spirit or something else. I don't know, but it was kind of on the borderline of poltergeist activity at some point as well. It was horrible. And I was ill a lot in that house, and I remember I had to go to bed, and there was a moment where I was laying down, but I felt like I was standing up. But I was slowly going like that and then back. Just horrible, really horrible. But there's so much happened. I'll probably be here for about 2 or 3 hours explaining it, so I'll leave it with that.
Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? I mean, I've had people come up to me over the years and they've gone. Well, a prime example was I went into a pub one day. I was doing an investigation and there was a pub next door to it. Well, next door, sort of 4 or 5 doors up. And the guy had said, "Look, I'm going to go to the pub. I'll leave you the keys, leave you the house. You just get on, do what you want, and then I'll sleep at my friend's." And I can't remember what happened. I think I went to ask him a question or something. So I had to go into the pub. So I left the house, went into the pub, and asked him a question. And he was with about 5 or 6 people. One of them was the landlord, and the landlord was a nice enough fella, he's like a sort of a East End boxing club guy. He used to run a boxing club, nice fella. And he said to me, "Oh, well, you're doing the ghost hunt on John's house?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "It's all nonsense, it's all rubbish." I said, "Well, it's your opinion, you're entitled to it, and who's to say you're not right, And it always happens that they do that. And then I was left with just me and this guy. And then he said, "Actually, you might be able to help me out. I had this happen." So they all poo-poo it when they're around their friends, or they ignore it, "Oh, no, it's rubbish, it's nonsense." As soon as they left, they're like, "Actually, you could help me out." And his story was that he worked at one of the Lions Boys clubs in the East End. And it was next door to a pub. It was a pub, and they'd had an old stable yard, and they'd used it as a boys' club for boxing. And he said, "You go in there," he said, and there was they had like chairs and stuff. And he said every time they'd be all, you'd leave it, lock up, come back next day, and all the chairs would be stacked up in the middle of the ring. Or they'd be against doors, like fire doors, blocking, so it was hard to get in, so you had to try and get through the windows. And I said, "Well, that sounds like archetypal poltergeist activity." And he went, Yeah. He said, I did wonder that. And you're thinking, well, you just spent 20 minutes trying to belittle me in front of your mates. And then it's amazing, really, the amount of people that have these experiences and are reluctant to, or maybe just nervous to talk about them. Maybe a bit frightened. Maybe they don't want to acknowledge it. They don't want to acknowledge it in case it bring it back or what have you. But if it is what it is, isn't it? Really.
Well, look, if that entity comes back, I've got my cameras now, so I can catch it on camera. So come on, please.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one thing I actually just remembered. I must have about 3 or 4 years old, and my family were having this party, this like tea party thing with all the family around. And there was a knock at the door, and it was my nan and granddad. But there was this man standing behind them, and he scared the life out. He looked like this old fisherman guy, face all dirty, red sort of beanie hat thing on and stripy shirt, but his face was dirty, and he just had this evil look about him. And I just started really crying. I don't like it. They said, what? It's your nan and granddad. Oh, no, that man. There's no one there. And that's, apart from like the thing with the sun thing when I was in the cot, those 2 things I remember vividly,
And did you explain to your nan and your granddad or your mum and dad that?
I tried to, but they didn't have it. There weren't no one there. There was nobody there other than my nan and granddad.
Yeah, you hear that a lot with children.
Yeah.
That parents trying to poo-poo it, and you think, was that going to do more damage than acknowledging it? Or
maybe they couldn't. Maybe it's like that. I see dead people kind of thing. Like when you're a kid.
Yeah.
When you're young, you've not got the when you grow up, you kind of change, don't you? Like
yeah.
Your mindset changes. Nah, it's ridiculous. Can't
well,
believe it.
You get trained, don't you, as you grow older?
Yeah.
You become cynical, don't you?
Yeah.
And then you lose that ability to connect with it, I guess. But it's still there, I suppose. It's just kind of trudging through all the rubbish and removing it and taking the blinkers off your eyes. But yeah, I've heard all sorts of the best excuses in the world for it's high amounts of electricity, or perhaps it's drugs, or perhaps it's this, perhaps it's that. I mean, a lot of investigators now turn around and say, well, if there's a high EMF there, then sometimes what it'll do is it'll mix with the synapses in your brain, and it will cause you. And I said, well, yeah, but that's one answer. Or is it actually opening up a portal for you to see beyond? You know, is it you hallucinating, or is it you having your mind opened up to the reality of what's beyond that veil? But it's an interesting subject, and we could go on forever about it.
Yeah.
But anybody else got anything they'd like to say? Or
there's a house I lived in growing up. It was like an end house, and I think it's more of a memory sort of ghost type thing. But as you went in the front door, you had stairs going up in front of you, and then they went round the corner for 2 steps, and then you had the living room door right there, and of course you had the shape out under the stairs, where we used to have a settee. And if I was there on my own, not always on my own actually, but sometimes you used to hear someone walking down the 2 steps, and then they would walk all the way down the stairs and then stop. And if you open the door, there's nothing there. And I was telling my cousin about it, and he said he was like, yeah, whatever. And he used to stay over quite a lot. And then when he stayed there one night, he said he heard the steps coming down, and then the other ones coming down the 4 steps, and he thought it was me messing about trying to scare him. And he said he went up to the door, opened it, and there was absolutely nothing in there. He said he never shot back into his bed so quick, put the covers up over his head. And that was all we saw of him till the morning. So he didn't sleep.
Did he ever come back and stay over again?
Yeah. Oh yeah. He stayed all the time, but he still thinks still thinks I was messing about. But that same house actually, we had a dog. My mum and dad. Well, my dad bought my mum a dog for when they got married for like a wedding present, and I grew up with this dog, and Shelley her name was, and she was basically my like nan. You know, she was the one I went to if I was getting told off. I used to go and crawl into her bed with her, and you know, she'd always be there for me. And when she died, I didn't know they were going to put her to sleep, so I went to school, and when I came home, Mum said she died, and Dad had already buried her around the side of the house, and we later had a patio over there. But I used to hear her walking from that side of that, because she had a certain clatter to her paws, and I knew the sound really well because I grew up with her.
Yeah.
And I used to hear her walking from that side up the side of the house, and then round the back to the back door. And I could be out in the garden and hear it, you know, just turn around and look. And obviously she wasn't there, but I could hear the claws coming up the path and then going around the back. And and that was a nice sort of feeling, you know, sort of knew she was still there really. And then recently when my dog Barney died, that sort of all happened quite quickly, and obviously sort of we were devastated and stuff. And I was driving down to our field, taking the customers' dogs down, and I was just thinking about him, and suddenly I just became aware of something on the passenger seat. And as I sort of turned around, you know when you sort of see something just outside of your vision?
Yeah.
I just saw him sat on the seat where I used to sit sometimes, and he was just looking up to me, sort of grinning, sort of panting, grinning, you know. And from that moment on, I felt much better about it. And I sometimes put my hand down by the seat now and pat his head. But I definitely felt him with me that day. And every now and then I feel him in the van with me still as well.
Yeah.
I like to think that when people you care about or animals that you care about pass on, they still visit us, they're still around checking up on us, and sometimes they give us a sign by showing us a little robin or a feather or something.
I've got a good one. My nan, she used to use a lot of TCP, which is a very distinctive smell. There's no other smell apart, like TCP. And we don't have TCP in the house or anything. And because it is literally my nan's smell. And sometimes I'll be driving and suddenly the van smells of TCP. So now I'm like, oh, you come along, have you? And it's there for sort of like a minute or so, and then it goes. But apparently, I'm not sure if it was last year or the year before, I was at my mum and dad's, and I hadn't said anything to them, and I'd gone down there. I think we'd been sat in the garden doing something, and then I come home, and then I was telling my mum about the TCP smell, whether something else happened. So I just told her the story, and she's quite skeptical about everything. And she's going, "Oh, that's weird, because your dad could smell TCP. He thought you'd had an injury or something, and you put TCP on it. Because when I was sat in their garden, I smelt of TCP."
Wow.
And yeah, because he said, "Oh, have you got a cut or something, or an insect bite or something? I put TCP on." I said, "No, because I don't use TCP."
No.
And it is that distinctive smell about it.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, my mum used to use it for wound, cuts, grazes,
everything,
stings,
TCP.
bites, and gargling to get a sore throat.
Yeah, gargle. Ah! You've accidentally swallowed it as well, haven't you?
Yeah, oh, it's horrible. Horrible. But like Damon, like I had an experience similar to you with it. I had a dog my first dog actually called Smokey, and she was just a mixed breed. She had about 30 different breeds in her, by the look of her. But she was a lovely dog. Absolutely adored the ground she walked on. And I remember I went to my uncle's. It was probably around the New Year actually, and I'd had her she'd lived quite a while. She was about 16 by the time she passed. And I remember leaving on the Friday, went with my uncle to spend time with my cousins. And the Saturday night I was around my uncle's house, and it was about 9:30. And I came around to my uncle and I said, straight out of nowhere, I said, "My Smokey's just died." He went, "What?" I said, "My Smokey's just died." He went, "No." He said, you just know." He went, "No, she's fine, I'm sure." I said, No, I can. It's like something was cut from me. It was like something had gone. And I said, no, I don't think it is. I think she's gone. And I got back on the Monday. I didn't phone my mum. She didn't phone me. And I got back on the Monday, and my mum said, yeah, she passed away on the Saturday night about 9:30. And like you, my mum used to have, I kind of guess they call them a parquet floor in the hall of the house. And I'd go to bed, and I'd hear the little nails click clopping on the parquet floor, come into the bedroom, and then you could feel her get on the bed. And that was great. That was great. Then I could go to sleep then, knowing that she was there with me. And that was not long after she'd passed, and it was kind of like an affirmation that, it's fine.
I'm still here.
I'm still here, and and it's really weird because I've had more, I think, spiritual experiences with the animals that I've lost than I have with the people.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad about it once. And I remember saying to this spiritualist, I said it was really bad because I miss a lot of my animals more than I missed some of my family. And she quite rightly said, that you can't legislate who you love and how much you love.
It's not that you don't love them. It's just that you obviously spend a lot more time with your animals than you do your family.
Yeah, exactly. And, they're a massive part of your life, aren't they?
Yeah.
But it's weird, yeah. There's I've heard of lots of stories where cats and dogs and people. A friend of mine had lost his cat, and he used to swear blind that his cat he'd hear it scratching, and then next thing you know, it'd be walking around the bed, and it'd jump on the bed, and he'd go back to sleep, And I said, did it worry you? No, because I knew it was. He said, I was fine with it. If anything, like mine, it was cut, and yours, it was comforting.
Yeah.
To know,
Mind you, it happens the other way around as well, doesn't it, Jen?
What's that?
Your nan and Tim, was it?
Oh yeah. Well, when my nan's, she had staffies when I was growing up, and then she had a couple of Jack Russells. Just before she died, the Jack Russell she had was Tim, and he was really a spoiled dog, spoiled beyond belief. And everything she did was him. And then when she became ill and she went into hospital, when she came out, she moved in with us. Well, Tim couldn't come to live with us because he didn't like the two dogs that we had, Bess and Mikey. So he went to my mum and dad, and he changed then. He became a different Tim, he was different. But anyway, we'd always celebrate Tim's birthday when Nan was alive and everything. And anyway, she died, and then almost a year later, because she died in September and his birthday was August. So it was almost a year later. And I just woke up in the middle, like really start. And I thought, God, I said, I just had a dream about Nan. I said, she was stood at the door with a birthday cake. And then I go back off to sleep. And then I wake up again, like ding dong. And I'd open the door and my Nan is stood there with a birthday cake. And the dream wouldn't be anything else. It was just that. And it happened 3 or 4 times. And then I woke up and I was like, oh my God, what date is it? It's Tim's birthday. We missed it. His birthday had been the day before.
She was trying to let you know.
and we'd missed it. So I rang my mum and I said, oh God, I said, I've been up most of the night having a dream about Nan stood at the door with a birthday cake. And she goes, oh, that's weird. And I said, what day is it? And she goes, oh, whatever. And anyway, his birthday was probably, I think it's 13th of August, something like that. I said, it was Tim's birthday yesterday. And we forgot. Everybody forgot. Yeah, when she was alive, we all remembered and went round there with a present for him. And when she died, we'd all forgot. So she decided she was come into my dream with a birthday cake.
Pay you a visit.
This ain't nothing else. Not, oh, missed you.
Oh, no.
birthday. So, yeah.
Yeah, some lovely stories.
Yeah.
Lovely stories. Well,
A lot of stories in that time, yeah.
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 David hasn't even done his video yet. It'll be Christmas Eve before that goes up.
That's what I'm doing Christmas Eve. I'm going to binge watch the rest of your videos, Damon, because I've missed a few this week.
Right, you're knackered, Joe.
Yeah.
Well, thank you all very much for coming along and sharing your stories.
Well, I'm just
Okay.
a bit like, you know, this is Dan's Christmas video.
Yeah,
Festive.
I know.
Damon, festive. Joe, well, Joe was festive just now. He had a hat on. Dan, there's not a bit of glitter, no tinsel.
No.
You live with kids. Come on. We've got 3 people with no kids being very festive. And Grinch sat there on the sofa.
I'm sick of Christmas. Having the kids ramming it down my throat. I'm just glad. But tomorrow night, obviously, we're doing it live, aren't we? So I've got my mask and.
You're doing live tonight, aren't you? Or is this recorded? Have we got a recorded, Dan?
Yeah. I just got to make sure I've recorded, actually. I'm only joking, I have. We've got to start again, sorry.
You've got audio, Joe.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thanks, guys. Really appreciate it. It's really been lovely to share that time and the stories with you. And yeah, that's about it. Thanks very much.
Good luck
Merry
in tier
Christmas,
4.
everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. It'll be tier 5 by the time this goes out. So thanks very much, guys.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
Christmas.
Hey. Don't let our stories keep you up at night. Lovely. Excellent. Thanks a lot, guys.
No worries. So was that all right for you then, Dan? Was it?
Yeah, perfect. You can stop recording now, Joe.
Be miserable now.
Yeah.